Good morning from Tiberias, Tiberia. Dini and I and Yehuda Tzvi left Jerusalem. Last night we went up to Tzvat and Rosh Pina, which are our sister cities for our Palm Beach community. And we spent the night here in Tiberias, and today we're going to go out in the beautiful mountains, hiking, water parks, and experience the northern part of Israel. This week's Torah portion also talks about journeys, the journey of the Jewish people from the land of Egypt to the land of Israel. And the Torah describes the 42 sojourns, the 42 places that the Jewish people encamped and departed from in order to ultimately arrive here in the land of Israel. And the question is, we know the Torah is very concise. The Torah only uses 31 verses to describe the entire creation of the world in 6 days and Shabbat. The Ten Commandments is only 14 verses. Yet the Torah spends more verses than that combined on describing the 42 journeys. And the question is, the goal of a journey is the destination. Why do we have to look back and talk about the 42 journeys that the Jewish people went through to get to the land of Israel? And the Baal Shem Tov explains that the 42 journeys are not just the original journeys of the Jewish people to get to Israel. It's the 42 journeys that every person goes through in their life. Every person goes through 42 or a multiple and a series of journeys, transitions, departures, encampments, and changes and fluctuations in their life until they spiritually arrive in their destination, in their ultimate purpose and fulfillment in life. And just like the Jewish people had many trials, tribulations, setbacks, even failures and mistakes along the way, but ultimately arrived in the land of Israel, so too every person must go through different challenges along their journeys to get to their ultimate goal. And that's true for humanity as a whole. When you look at the book of Bereshit, for example, it starts with Cain murdering his brother Abel. The next relationship between Isaac and Ishmael didn't lead to murder, but it wasn't a good relationship. Then Jacob and Esau also have conflict, but they make peace, but a cold peace. Then you have Joseph and the brothers who make a warm peace. Then you have Manasseh and Ephraim who love each other and never have conflict. And then you have Moses and Aaron who are not only not in conflict and not only living in peace, but are happy for each other's successes. So we see the transition of mankind as a whole. And that's true in all of our lives. Sometimes we start off slow, we start off sluggish, we start off with challenges, but ultimately we achieve the pinnacle of our blessings and success in life. And that's why in Judaism it's fascinating to note that unlike most cultures, where the day begins either at dawn or the day begins at midnight, as we do in our calendar, in the Gregorian calendar, in Judaism, the day begins with nightfall, with dusk. And from the dusk, we make it to the dawn. And the metaphor is in life, we often start with darkness. And just like with dusk, the darkness could intensify. But ultimately, after the night, we arrive in the morning, in the light. And I've always pointed out that Palm Beach Synagogue is on the corner of Sunset and County Road in Palm Beach. But we are moving down the block, acquiring more properties, going towards sunrise. Because in Judaism, we begin with sunset. But from there, we emerge into the sunrise. And that's why the Torah repeats the 42 journeys to remind us that we all are constantly journeying towards our goal and destination. And don't be deterred by the hardships along the way, because ultimately, like the Jewish people, we will all arrive in our destination, in our promised land, and we will look back and realize that all of the journeys were stepping stones to achieve the heights and the fulfillment and the goals and the destinations of our lives. On Shabbat, I was praying in an old synagogue in Jerusalem called the Tzemach Tzedek Shul. I was sitting next to another visitor who lives in New York, in New Jersey actually. His name is Rabbi Yaakov Weiss. And he told me an amazing story. He said his grandparents, when they got engaged, they went to the Lubavitcher Rebbe for a blessing before their wedding, like a week before their wedding. They came into the Rebbe's room, they met with the Rebbe, and in the middle of the meeting, his grandmother started to cry. The Rebbe saw something's wrong, and she said she needs to speak to the Rebbe privately. So the Rebbe asked her groom to leave so the Rebbe could speak to her privately. And the Rebbe asked her, "What's the matter? Why are you crying? You're getting married in a week." And she said, "I'm crying because I've gotten to know my groom, and he's an extraordinary person, a wonderful man, kind, compassionate, sensitive, caring, and very patient and very sensitive. And I know myself," she said, "I'm a very irritable agitated. I get very easily angered. I don't have any patience. I get stressed quickly, and I'm afraid that we're not compatible, that once he realizes that I'm such a temperamental person and I have no patience, we're going to have problems in our marriage, and I'm afraid to get married. And here's what the Rebbe told his grandmother. The Rebbe said, you are a patient person. You just haven't revealed it yet. It's concealed at the moment. But God willing, you will get married and you will have children. And your children will teach you to reveal the patience that you have already within yourself. With this blessing, she proceeded with confidence to get married. He then told me that when his grandmother got married, she couldn't have children. They went to doctors and started taking tests. The doctor said, you cannot have children. You have an infertile womb. And she remembered the Rebbe's blessing that her children will teach her patience. So she decided to become a teacher in a preschool so she could work with little children to learn patience. She started to teach little children, and ultimately, a miracle, she started to be able to have children. And she had 16 children. She went on to build an enormous family. Today she has hundreds of descendants from these 16 children. And he said it all began with the Rebbe's blessing when the Rebbe said to her, don't look at yourself as a person with no patience. You do have patience. You just haven't revealed it yet. And that's true in every one of our lives. When we see something is lacking, let us realize life is a journey. We have to reveal it. Like the Jewish people, sometimes it takes 42 different journeys and transitions in life. But the main thing is to keep your eye on